Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Science into Another World News. Before I get started, I want to wish everyone Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Caesar's greetings, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever you celebrate, I hope you guys are celebrating it fantastically. And if you don't celebrate anything, that's okay too, because not everybody celebrates the holidays, so I'm fine with that also. I thought since this was the holiday season, I would read to you guys something different, not UFOs. Even though I love my UFO stories and my abduction stories, I'm going to do something a little bit different. So I was listening to Dave Scott last night, and he had Varla Ventura on. And she comes on once a month, and I love listening to her talk because she always talks about fairies and changelings and pukas and trolls and goblins. And I ended up buying one of her books, I think, which was like a year ago. And it's called Fairies, Pukas, and Changelings, A Complete Guide to the Wild and Wicked Enchanted Realm. So what I found out last night was listening to the show is that around this time of the year, the holiday season, like around Christmas, the veil or the dimensions between like the fairy realm, if you believe in that, which I kind of do, and our dimension, the veil is thinner, which means like fairies and magical creatures can cross over into our dimension. And which actually kind of makes sense when you think about it, because you have to think about some of these stories come from somewhere about fairies and trolls and goblins. There has to be some truth to them. And so I think back to the time when humans were more closely connected with nature, and not like it is today, where we all have our heads and on our phones and iPads and on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. People were more in connected with nature centuries ago, so that makes sense that fairies and trolls and stuff will cross over to, I guess, to play tricks on humans, because that's what fairies do, to trade with humans or trick them into the fairy realm or whatever. So I thought I would read something from her book today relating to that, since it is Christmas time. So according to what they were talking about last night on her show, on Dave Scott's show, and check his show out if you haven't watched it, it's a really good show, that you can also hear, if you listen really, really closely, you can hear animals talk on Christmas Eve. Now, I don't know if they're talking about your dogs and cats. I'm assuming maybe you need to be like in nature to listen really, really closely and to perceive or hear these animals talk on Christmas Eve. That's the story anyway. That's the rumor. Yeah, but Varla Ventura writes about like history of like magical creatures and stuff. And so I suggest you go to her website. It's called varlaventura.com. Just Google her. It'll take you to her website. And so, yeah, she has all kinds of books about fairies and trolls and goblins. So I'm going to read to you guys a story out of one of her books. It's called The Scandinavian Christmas Troll. What young child doesn't love the den of Christmas, the lights in shop windows and holiday hum, a promise of bellies full of cookies and piles of presents. And when most of us think of Christmas, we think of a bearded man in a red suit, jolly and adept at delivering toys. We accept his magical elfin assistance and flying abilities in a way that goes almost unquestioned, chalking it up to the magic of the season. And when we think of holiday horrors, it is usually high prices or forgotten presents, perhaps a burnt Christmas ham. What would your children say if you whispered tales to them, not of Christmas cheer and of sights of the elusive Santa Claus, but stories of a very different kind of magic altogether? What if you told them that at the stroke of midnight on Christmas Eve, curious things happen, wells run with blood, animals talk, buried treasures are revealed, and water turns into wine? And if you warned them of witches that leaped from roof to roof, or ghosts that hung about the chimneys waiting to visit them in the dark of night, would they still anticipate the winter holidays in the same way? Early 20th century author Clement A. Miles was a historian and an amateur anthropologist of sorts. His 1912 collection, Christmas in Ritual and Tradition, Christian and Pagan, is not just a cross-cultural look at the origins of Santa Claus. Here you'll find werewolves, bogies, and trolls. You'll find curses and hexes and imminent death, rituals of dead and goblin offerings. You'll be warned of the devil and cautioned against laziness. Beware the Scandinavian Christmas trolls. They love to dance and drink through the night on Christmas Eve. If you are in Bavaria, take heed of the Burchat, a wretched bogey who cuts open the stomachs of naughty children. At all costs, do not walk outside alone should you ever find yourself in Greece during the 12 days of Christmas. For there lurks the most horrid beast of all, the Calicont, Zori, or the Carcantazor. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering those words. A horrid half-human, half-animal monstrosity that plays tricks and ravages households, often leaving the occupants dead. Some say it is a mortal man transformed into beastly creatures. Others say it is manifested from the supernatural beyond. And it goes on to, let's see, Miles writes, in the Scandinavian countries, simple folk have a vivid sense of the nearness of the supernatural on Christmas Eve. On Yule night, no one should go out, for he may meet uncanny beings of all kinds. In Sweden, the trolls are believed to celebrate Christmas Eve with dancing and revelry. On the heaths, witches and little trolls, one on a horse and another on a broom or a shovel, to their assemblies where they dance under their stones, and the mount are then to be heard, and mirth and music, dancing and drinking. On Christmas morn, during the time between cock crowing and daybreak, it is highly dangerous to be abroad. And then let's see. Then it talks about red hat clapping. The signature red hat of Santa Claus is often likened to the red cap mushroom of the forest and the many little men who share the look. Gnomes whose domain is woods and gardens and who look after crops and children are often seen wearing red hats. Even the leprechauns who we know today as sporting a top hat or green bowler once wore a red cap. What a wonderful Christmas story, don't you think, you guys? Let me see what else is in here. I want to pick out one more story to read to you guys. Let's see. I'm going to do the brownie. Let's do. No, I don't want to do that one. They have a story about Rumpelstiltskin in here, but I'm not going to do that one. Because most people know about Rumpelstiltskin. Let's do this one. It says, someone to watch over me. When it comes to witches and fairy godmothers, the story of Cinderella often takes center stage. In the next story by the gentleman who brought you one of the first versions of Cinderella stories, Charles Perrault, we find another giving fairy with the classic elements. The abused but also fair maiden who is kind of heart, the evil stepsister, the moral of the story. Laziness and greed are often rewarded with nothing, or fairies give to those who deserve it, and not many deserve it. So, okay, there's a story. It's called The Fairy by Charles Perrault. There was once upon a time a widow who had two daughters. The eldest was so much like her in the face and humor that whoever looked upon the daughter saw the mother. They were both so disagreeable and so proud that there was no living with them. The youngest, who was the very picture of her father for courtesy and sweetness of temper, was withal one of the most beautiful girls ever seen. As people naturally love their own likeness, the mother even doted on her eldest daughter. At the same time, had a horrible aversion for the youngest. She made her eat in the kitchen and work continually. Among other things, this poor child was forced twice a day to draw water above a wait, let me read this. Was forced twice a day to draw water above a mile and a half off the house and bring it home, a pitcher full of it. One day, as she was at the fountain, there came to her a poor woman who begged of her to let her drink. "Oh, with all my heart, goody," said this pretty maid. Rinsing immediately the pitcher, she took up some water from the clearest place in the mountain and gave it to her, holding up the pitcher all the while that she might drink easier. The good woman having drank, said to her, the page. You are so very pretty, my dear, so good and so mannerly that I cannot help giving you a gift, for this was a fairy who had taken the form of a poor country woman to see how far the civility and good manners of this pretty girl will go. I will give you your, I will give you for a gift, continued the fairy, that at every word you speak there shall come out of your mouth either a flower or a jewel. When this pretty girl came home, her mother scolded at her for staying so long at the fountain. I beg your pardon, mamma, said the poor girl, for not making more haste. And in speaking these words, there came out of her mouth 2 roses, 2 pearls, and 2 diamonds. What is this I see? Said her mother, quite astonished. I think I see pearls and diamonds come out of the girl's mouth. How happens this, child? This was the first time she ever called her child, of course. The poor creature told her frankly all the matter, not without dropping out on infinite numbers of diamonds. In good faith, cried the mother, I must send my child thither. Come hither. Fanny, look what comes out of thy sister's mouth when she speaks. Whilst not thou be glad, my dear, to have the same gift given to thee? Thou hast nothing else to do but go and draw water out of the fountain, and when a certain poor woman asks thee to let her drink, to give it to her very civilly. It would be a very great fine sight indeed, said the ill-bred minx, to see me go draw water. You shall go, hussy, said the mother, in this minute. So away she went, but grumbling all the way, taking with her the best silver tankard in the house. She was no sooner at the fountain than she saw coming out of the woods a lady most gloriously dressed, who came up to her and asked to drink. This was, you must know, the very fairy who appeared to her sister, but had now taken the air and dress of a princess to see how far the girl's rudeness would go. Am I come hither, said the proud saucy slut, to serve you with water? Pray, I suppose the silver tankard was brought purely for your ladyship, was it? However, you may drink out of it if you have a fancy. You are not over and above mannerly, answered the fairy, without putting herself in passion. Well then, since you have so little breeding, and are so disobliging, I give you for gift that at every word you speak there should come out of your mouth a snake or a toad. Sorry about that. Soon as her mother saw her coming, she cried out, Well, daughter? Well, mother, answered the part hussy, throwing out of her mouth 2 vipers and 2 toads. Oh, mercy, cried the mother. What is this I see? Oh, it is that wretch, her sister, who has occasioned all this. But she shall pay for it, and immediately she ran to beat her. The poor child fled away from her and went to hide herself in the forest not far from thence. The king's son then on his return from hunting met her, and seeing her so very pretty, asked her what she did there alone, and why she cried. Alas, sir, my mamma has turned me out of doors. The king's son, who saw 5 or 6 pearls, as many diamonds come out of her mouth, desired to tell her how that happened. She thereupon told him the whole story, and so the king's son fell in love with her, and considering with himself that such a gift was worth more than any marriage portion whatsoever in another, conducted her to the palace of the king his father, and there married her. As for her sister, she made herself so much hated that her own mother turned her off, and the miserable wretch, having wandered about a good while without finding anybody to take her, went to a corner in the wood and died. And then it goes on down here at the end of the story. Fairies, black, gray, green, white, you moonshine revelers and shade tonight, you orphan hot heirs of fixed destiny, attend your office and your quality. William Shakespeare, The Merry Wives of Windsor. Happy holidays, you guys. So those are my 2 stories that I wanted to read for the holidays. I hope you enjoyed them. Like I said, that's the book. Pukas, Fairies, Pukas, and Changelings. It's a very interesting but very good book. So yeah, that's what I want to read. And I've also been revisiting the Roswell story again. So I went and got this book. Where is it? Let me grab the book so I can show you. So I found this book in this family-owned bookstore. She has all kinds of books and records and stuff. It's by Kevin D. Randall, A History of UFO Crashes. So I've been reading that book, and it was talking about the Roswell crash of 1947. For those of you guys who aren't familiar with it, but I'm pretty sure most of you guys are familiar with it. And so in the Roswell crash, it talks about 5 bodies being found. Because I mean, there's been so many stories about bodies. Some people said 3, some people said 4, but in the book, it hints at 5 bodies being found. And so I was watching one of Linda Moan Howe rebroadcast shows on Wednesday, because you know she does a show every Wednesday, but this week, since it was a holiday, she was just replaying one of her shows, and it was talking about dissected bodies of the Roswell crash in 1947. And on her show, she was talking about 5 bodies being found too. So I'm thinking there were 5 bodies being found. I'm not exactly sure. I gotta do some more research. Like I said, I'm revisiting the Roswell case again. So I'm gonna get back with you guys after I find out more research and do more research on the Roswell case to find out if there exactly was 5 bodies, and if one of them, because there have been stories about 1 body being alive and 2 bodies laying out on the crash, and then all of the bodies were dead, and then there was 4 bodies. So trying to just get a better understanding of how many bodies there were all together. But according to this book, supposedly there were 5, and listen to Linda Moan Howe talk about it. Supposedly there were 5. So I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what else I wanted to talk about. I guess that's it for right now. I finished doing my research about the Roswell crash. So I guess I want to wish everyone happy holidays again. Season's greetings. And I don't be back on before the new year. I hope you guys have a rocking 2023. And so does my gray buddy right here. Happy holidays. And like I said, if you want my nephew to do artwork for you, let me know. He can draw up something for you, paint something for you. I love my image. He autographs it at the bottom too. Very cool. So yeah, that's it. And if you guys have any stories of like fairies and changelings and pukas and trolls and goblins and mermaids and unicorns, and what are your thoughts about the fairy dimension, and do you believe that the veil is thin around this time of the year where fairies can cross over to our dimension and cross back? So I want to know your thoughts too. I've always been fascinated with fairy stories and trolls and stuff, going into the magical realm of the fairies. But after you read some of these stories in these books, being trapped over in the fairy realm and not realize how much time has passed, kind of makes you not want to go into the realm. But would I like to see a fairy? Yes. So would I like to see a mermaid? Yes. That would be all so very cool. I just want to see a UFO, which I have yet to see that. So anyway, I don't know. That's it. That's all I got for now. Bye. Happy holidays.